Certified for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is a counselor, adjunct professor, and of course, an author too, and the author of the book Unstuck. No other than Mr. Brady Daniel. Welcome, Mr. Brady, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Absolutely. Well, my name is Brady Daniel. I am the owner and counselor of a counseling practice in Southlake, Texas called Numa Counseling, Coaching, and Consulting. Also teach at a smaller Christian university, as well as when I have the opportunities, I love to be able to express what God's put in me in different variations. And as a result, you see the outlook of that within the newest expression, which is my book called Unstuck. And so that's who I am. I have the opportunity of getting to sit across from amazing people and get to help them, whether it's marriages, struggling to understand how do they move forward through communication, whether that's individuals that have been hurt by the church and aren't sure about what their next steps are, individuals that are struggling with anxiety or anger, or parents wondering what the next step is. And so I have the privilege and honor to connect with amazing people and help them to understand how amazing they are by taking their next step.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Brady. Hoping for more and more empowering books like this to come. The title Unstuck speaks to feelings so many of us know. That paralyzing sense of being frozen in place even when we desperately want to move. What was a personal or professional catalyst that led you to write this book, and how did you find your own way unstuck in the process?
Great question. I was a guest on a podcast just like this, and as the host was teeing me up at the very beginning, was asking me, where do we push people to? Where do we allow people to be able to see what it is that you're doing? Do you have a book? Do you have a podcast? And at the time, I did not. And when I told him how long I had been practicing, he was very perplexed that I didn't have a book. And he really just challenged me through the process of that podcast to the point where it made me think, well, should I have a book? And really processing that with God and thinking, well, maybe the stories that I've been through, maybe the stories that God has spoken to me directly, if I put them in some type of alliteration, would that help other individuals? And not only that, but a couple of stories through the book. One with my wife and her journey that God led her, that walked her through of finding healing in a time of desperation, but as well as mine of a time that God had called me to actually open Numa, and because it wasn't really working the way that I wanted it to, I looked for different venues. I went back into the church. I went and helped another friend with his private practice. I even started another private practice with a functional nutritionist. And really, what I found was that none of it was working because I wasn't called to any of that other than this vision, this mission of what God had placed in me, which was called Numa. And so the purpose behind the book is knowing that it's taken me 8 years to get unstuck. What would it look like if I could share my story through this book so that other people could learn from that and grow from that and become unstuck? And maybe, just maybe, others wouldn't have to experience the same pain that I had to experience. And that really was the heart and the motivation behind the book.
Interesting, Mr. Brady. Your book focuses on moving when life tells you to do sit still.
Mm.
What are the most common and often invisible forces, whether internal like fear or external like societal pressure, that you see actively telling people to stay put?
Great question, and yes to all of that. I think one of the biggest complexities is what I call this 900-pound gorilla called apathy. The idea of recognizing they an individual will come in, hey, here's the goal, here's where I want to get to, and that they fixate on that goal. And so every time they come in, even when they're doing something different, which we want to help them recognize as a win, and seeing from where they are or where they've been to where they are. But so much of the time, they can't recognize that because they can only see where they're not. And time again, they push through that only to find themselves not at the place where they want to be. And because of that, they give up because because they start asking the question, well, I'm not where I want to be, so what's the purpose? What's the point? And that complexity of apathy really is a big one that keeps people stuck. I think another complexity is our emotions and not being aware of what to do with them in the moment that we feel them. And because of that, and the way that the mind and the brain and body work in tandem, or are supposed to work in tandem, and not being aware that if the mind has not been trained to turn inwardly to validate and acknowledge the emotions of what's taken place and give the brain and body the vernacular of that, then it turns outward and it creates a self defense mechanism. And when it does this, then you have the mind, soul, and the brain and body working against each other and not for each other. And when this happens, the byproduct is repression. When repression happens, it becomes very intensified. Anything that's introduced in the body, love, peace, patience, goodness, intensifies. Pain, rejection, abandonment, insecurity intensifies. And so, if we aren't walking through a process of helping people understand how the soul meets the brain and body to work in tandem and in harmony with one another, then as a result of that, we push down a lot of pain. And because of that, over time, we feel it, we feel the effects, and we really don't want to move because of it.
You structure the journey around healing the heart, reviving
Mm.
belief, and reclaiming power. Why is it the specific sequence so critical?
Yes, I think because of the idea of understanding the importance of these complexities and understanding the way that we like to think is very linear. If I do A, B, will I get C? If I do A, B, and C, will I get D? And so having some type of orientation to think linear, I think it helps individuals understand, hey, guess what? I'm moving. And when we can actually take a step, we're actually moving closer to where we want to be. We have mindsets that actually keep us stuck. We use illustrations such as a watched pot will never boil. Well, actually, it will. It may seem like the perspective is that it takes forever, but it will actually boil as long as the stove is working the way that it's intended. Or if I'm supposed to walk from where I live to the other metropolitan area of the DFW area, from Fort Worth to Dallas, which is a tremendous amount of distance to walk by, to walk, Brady, you would never make it there. Well, yeah, I will. It may take me a long time as long as I don't stop. And so when we help people understand kind of this linear progression from A to B, from B to C, and C to D, then as a result of that, it allows them to it creates this anticipation, it creates this expectation, and it creates this powerful component called hope. Hope is massive in the mental health area and the emotional health area and even the spiritual health area, and helping people acknowledge, hey, just as you had the hope to take that step, now that you're moving, what does it look like by utilizing that hope to take another step and then another step? And before you know it, we are in a cycle of taking amazing steps, and we're a lot closer than where we were when we first began, and we're even closer to where we want to be.
Let's talk about healing the heart, Mr. Brady. When someone
Please.
is stuck, the heart is often wounded by past failure, disappointment, or grief. What is the first, most gentle step you recommend to someone to begin tending to those wounds without being overwhelmed by?
Great question. And I think that there's a lot of answers out there, and a lot of good answers as well. I think recognition and awareness is always the key to everything because I can't change, I can't, I can't heal, I can't think differently, I can't believe differently if I'm not even aware of what's taking place. And so the dynamic of understanding the conscious awareness, subconscious unawareness, and how these two areas and spheres were intended to work in tandem, but how a lot of times they arm wrestle each other, if you will. And because of that, one of the very basic necessities is helping an individual acknowledge what has come into them emotionally, or where they feel the pain emotionally and mentally. So, to answer your question, and circling back around, where we always like to start is from the standpoint of awareness, because what we believe awareness empowers the willingness, and our will and our willingness empowers the opportunity for us to take another step.
Reviving belief, Mr. Brady, is a powerful concept. It's more
Mm.
than just positive thinking. How do you guide someone to resurrect a belief in themselves, in their dreams, or in possibility of change when they feel that belief has been completely extinguished?
Great question. And I think a lot of individuals can find themselves there. I tried it, it didn't work. And so as a result of that, it must not work anymore. And I remember, I can't remember who termed it. I think, uh, goodness, Henry Ford gets credit for it, if I do remember. Whether you believe that you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right. And so helping people understand, what is it that we want to be right about? The fact that you can't, and more likely you won't, or the fact that you can, and so therefore we just need to be able to engage our will to be able to do something about that. And usually asking that mirrored type question creates a lot of opportunity for awareness. And so helping them understand, hey, have you ever had a bad experience before? You know, we all love to eat. The vast majority of people love to eat. I do myself. And, asking them, hey, what's your favorite kind of food? I know that's kind of a weird question that you might think, why would you be asking them about? But I know in my mind, I'm taking them someplace. Yeah, Brady, I love, hamburgers. Oh, yeah, hamburgers are great. Love hamburgers. What all do you want on it, and what have you? Hey, have you ever had a bad experience at a hamburger place? Oh, yeah. Hey, tell me about it. Not all going graphic or anything like that, but what happened? Where was it? And boy, did it make you think twice before having a hamburger there for a little bit? Yeah, yeah. Hey, when's the last time you had a hamburger? Probably last week. Oh, wait a second. I thought that we had a bad experience. Well, we did, but Brady, I love it too much. Oh, interesting. And so helping them understand from something as simplistic as food, in the illustration of food, that we can have bad experiences in a lot of different opportunities. And how do we move forward in a very similar fashion, and helping them tap into, well, how did you walk through that? How did you get through that mindset of when you took the first bite of that hamburger? Did were you trepidatious? Was there a little bit of anxiety after taking that first bite? And then now, are you planning on eating a hamburger again? Yes, I am. Okay, so knowing that you have the strength to move past things that are difficult, just as you did with a hamburger, what you're conveying is that you can do hard things, and empowering them to understand, well, Brady, that seems pretty silly. Okay, well, we can use a different illustration, but helping them understand that they are a powerful, powerful human being, and to help them come into awareness and process that. Because what we understand is what we introduce into the body becomes compounded. The idea of love, peace, patience, as Galatians 5 talks about, becomes compounded as it's introduced into the body. And as we meditate on it, and it grows. Same thing with pain. And so, how do we help people acknowledge the pain and process the pain, to express the pain, so it creates more capacity for love, more capacity for peace, more capacity for patience, and what have you? And then the opportunity is, now that we have the capacity to where pain is no longer, does it create the opportunity for us to think differently? And if we are able to think differently, then can we start believing differently and taking a step after step and moving in that direction? And what we find is, a lot of people want to believe differently. They just are scared to believe differently because they've tried it once, and they're scared to get their hopes up. Brady, I tried it, it didn't work. Understandably so. What does it look like by trying again and trying again and trying again? And it's so it's a blessing that we learn so many things in those early formative years, whether it's walking, whether it's talking, whatever the task may be. Because as kiddos, we learn that they are tremendously tenacious. They are tremendously, they don't give up easily. And because of that, they may fall 200 times, but they're going to get up the 201st time. And how do we learn that? And how do we adopt that in the progression of us being adults? How do we look at kiddos and say, what is it that they're doing? Well, they're not giving up. Where is it that I've given up? And how do I continue to try again? And what does that process look like? And that's really what the book speaks of, is what is a process, not the process, but a process that helps individuals regain their belief by taking one step at a time.
Mr. Brady, as an author, professor, and counselor, what are your short term and long term goals?
I beg your pardon. I missed that. My I apologize.
Yes, as a counselor, an author, and a professor, what are your short term and long term goals?
Short term and long term goals. That's a great question. So right now, I'm actually working on my doctorate. That's one of my goals, and the opportunity of continuing to stay strong and stay sharp, and look for opportunities of how to convey difficult messages or even more simplistic messages, and what are different ways, like the book, like being so graciously welcomed on your podcast to convey messages to audiences so they don't have to remain stuck. So, really, short term is helping the students that I work with, helping the clientele that I work with, making sure I'm being impactful with my wife and my kiddos so that I don't neglect them in the process of helping other individuals. And those would be short term goals. Long term goals. And of course, I guess another short term goal would be continuing to build the practice so it creates more capacity so that we can help more individuals. Long term, finishing my doctorate, writing more, creating more opportunities, connecting with like minded individuals so that we're able to help more individuals be able to understand how amazing and powerful they really are.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Brady, and looking forward for more success. And
I
what will be
appreciate
your
that.
yes, and what would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
Yeah, I think that it's easy to look at other individuals and see, well, I want to be like them because look at where they are. And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to write this, is because we've had a lot of ups, but we've had some significant downs. And what does it look like by celebrating your own life, celebrating what God's doing in your life, so that you could actually get out there and do something similar, whether it's write your own book. And that's one of the things that I'm encouraging other individuals. I've had multiple individuals. Hey, Brady, how did you do this? One step at a time. Hey, you know what? Is this in you? Yeah. You guess what? You should write a book. And I probably have encouraged 5 or 6 other individuals that they should write a book, and really helping them in that process of what that looks like. And so my message would be, guess what? How do I do it? What is it that I'm dreaming about? And how do I take one step? If that's writing a book, if that's going back and getting my graduate degree or undergraduate degree, if that's starting a family, whatever that may be, what is it that I want? And then what is it that I first think of that creates hindrance? And how do I process that so I can take a step? And so my encouragement was that you are a lot closer than you think, and to take that next step.
Well, thank you for that advice, Mr. Brady. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, well, again, I think the book that we're looking at now, "Unstuck: How to Move When Life Tells You to Sit Still," would be a phenomenal book. I think there's a lot of other great books out there. One of the books that really helped me in my journey was a book by Dr. Alexander Lloyd, and it was called "Beyond Willpower." A phenomenal book, and I believe I actually referenced Dr. Lloyd in my book. Another great book would be Dr. Bruce Lipton, called "The Anatomy of Belief," are a couple books that I highly that have impacted myself And I recommend all the time because I know that what they've done for me. They've been a blessing in my life.
And thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Brady. If you could only give one exercise, one question, or one mantra from your book to a person feeling completely paralyzed, what would it be?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that one of the big things is journaling is incredibly impactful. We understand that through neurological research from individuals like Dr. Daniel Amen out of California, a phenomenal psychiatrist that's doing phenomenal work. And what we find is to be able to sit and write out what we're feeling and thinking creates impact. And so, one of the things that I always encourage people to do, as I've had to encourage myself to do it, is to actually write down what's going on inside of ourselves and giving ourselves that space to express it on paper. That is.
Okay, so the book promises, Mr. Brady, to help readers reclaim their power. What does a person who is fully reclaimed their power look like, sound like, and most importantly, feel like in their day to day life?
They look like, feel like, sound like someone who understands that it's not all rainbows and butterflies. That there are going to be days where they stub their toes. Hopefully not physically, but they're going to have days that are difficult. With that being said, is that those difficult days, they go to bed, they get up the next day, and they get back after it. They are confident in knowing their purpose and their vision. And you can see it in their eyes, you can hear it in their voice, that they stand with conviction as they communicate the message of what God's placed in them as they engage individuals. And on the good days, they sound that way. And even on the days where they've stubbed their toe, they still sound and look the same because they know the mission is one of the same.
Mr. Brady, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 review, Music 101 and fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Brady, if someone reads Unstuck and does the work, what is the most profound transformation they can genuinely hope to experience on the other side? What becomes possible for them that's what not before?
I think clearer mind and clearer thoughts. The opportunity of do negative thoughts go completely away? Well, I'd love to be able to say that they do. Unfortunately, I think that in this world we shall have troubles as Scripture articulates. With that, though, He's given us the opportunity of overcoming them, and I think that this is a methodology that points to a process of how do we become transformed by the renewing of our mind as the book of Romans talks about. And so, in that, what can we say by somebody who walks through a process like this? That they become every day a little bit closer, more transformed.
Mr. Brady Daniel, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah. So, if you're watching, you're listening right now, I would love for you to reach out. It's on Amazon. Unstuck: How to Move When Life Tells You to Sit Still. You can follow us on the Numa podcast as well. And we're just out there wanting to impact people one person at a time. So thank you so much for the opportunity of getting to come and communicate.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Brady Daniel because if you support him, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Mr. Brady, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Monica people, see you soon.